So we're going to be discussing a verse from Canto 1 Srimad Bhagavatam. For those of you that are newer, I'll be speaking mainly to you, and everybody else you can eavesdrop, listen in on the conversation. I'm sure, reasonably sure, that you're all familiar with Bhagavad Gita. And come on in. Bhagavad Gita is spoken by Krishna just before the Kurukshetra battle. And the Bhagavad Gita is right in the middle, literally right in the middle of Mahabharata, which is a vast itihasa, or a text giving history of Greater India. In fact, that's one of the English translations of the title, Mahabharata, Greater India. And what's in Bhagavad Gita is, of course, it's Krishna speaking. So Krishna's giving some very essential, simple understandings of achieving perfection. And that's the way. One of the ways to describe this Srimad Bhagavatam in comparison to Bhagavad Gita is Bhagavad Gita is like the undergraduate study, and Bhagavatam is the graduate study. You understand that language, right? What year are you in school? 4th grade. Want to know something? Of course. In India, I learned this recently. We're always learning something. But in India, the system is when you get to high school, in 10th grade of high school, there's a national exam, and it lasts for 10 days. Ooh. You remember? No, that's something else. I'm speaking of high school education in India. So in 10th grade in India, students take a national exam. And the national exam is going to determine what grade level they are in the next 2 years, the 10th, 11th, and 12th grade. So it's like a big exam, but it's preparation for something that comes after the big exam. And then comes college and then all the rest of the stuff. So similarly, up to the 10th standard or 10th grade, that's the undergraduate study. And then comes beyond the undergraduate study to the next level. Similarly, there's kind of an introduction to spiritual teachings in Bhagavad Gita, and then there's a graduate study. What happens in graduate study? You know, in math, are you good at math? No? Yes. So supposing you learn, multiplication and division. Yeah, then you move up, and so you get something a little more complicated. And then the graduate study gets more abstract. It's not that 2 plus 2 becomes something other than 4. It's still in the graduate study, 2 plus 2 is 4. But you explain it, and you can apply it in a higher level in the graduate study. And then postgraduate, you doctorate in mathematics. Who knows what your future holds? So the Bhagavatam, all of that is to explain the Srimad Bhagavatam is a graduate study of Bhagavad Gita. So that means what's in Bhagavad Gita is also in Srimad Bhagavatam, plus more sophisticated, more intricate understandings. Same teachings. 2 plus 2 is 4. That doesn't change. But then graduate study of how to apply mathematics in graduate study. So We have a couple of senior citizens here. I think senior citizens are going to need a chair, probably. A senior citizen place to sit. See what you can do over there. Nice to see you, Chakri. I saw Divyananda yesterday, and I'm seeing you today. Oh, you saw it on YouTube. Okay. Okay. But still nice to see you. You've got a lot of friends. That's nice. Okay. Front row seat. Look at this. What year in school are you? Fourth grade. Do you know him right behind you? You know each other? Yes? Classmates? No. Different school. Okay. But same age. Okay. Go back to Srimad Bhagavatam. So here's the scene of Srimad Bhagavatam. Just like Bhagavad Gita has a scene. There's a battlefield, the two armies, this side, that side. You want to hear a nice story? Here's a nice story. Before the battle begins, after Bhagavad Gita is spoken, the two armies are lined up. Like we see the painting of Krishna and Arjuna in the middle of the battlefield, and there's this army and there's that army. It's massive. But before the Bhagavad Gita is now finished, Arjuna is resolved, yes, I shall fight. Krishna vachanam tava. Whatever you have said, Krishna, that's what I'll do. You want me to fight, I'll fight. So, battle hasn't begun yet. And then, according to Mahabharata, there's chatter on this side. You know, we're going to be victorious. There's chatter on that side. Those people are going to be defeated. You know, chivalry talk. But the battle hasn't begun yet. Because they're waiting for Yudhisthira, who is actually the emperor, to give the word. The battle can begin. You know, tension, What happens? Yudhisthira takes off his helmet, places his weapons to the side, and goes straight to the enemy army. And he doesn't go to the enemy army, he goes to the commander-in-chief, Grandfather Bhishma. He falls at Grandfather Bhishma's feet and asks for blessings. And what are the blessings? May we be victorious. Grandfather Bhishma gives his blessings. You will be victorious. I give you my blessings. And then he adds, it's a good thing you did this, because if you didn't, I would have cursed you and you would have been the loser. But it started with, it's one of the teachings that we've been doing these other evening classes, seeking blessings is a part of Vedic culture. There's an elder, certainly. Grandfather Bhishma is elder to everybody. And you seek blessings from the elderly. It's Vedic culture. So what does he do next? He doesn't go right back and pick up his weapons. He goes to Dronacharya and does the same thing. He falls at his feet, looks up at him, seeking blessings. May I be victorious. You may be victorious. You will win. And he says something very similar to what Bhishma said. It's a good thing you did this, because otherwise you would have lost. With blessings, you'll be victorious. And Dronacharya says something else. He says, I want you to know how you can defeat me. As long as I'm holding my weapons, you won't be able to defeat me. But when that situation comes where the man who never lies tells a lie, I'll drop my weapons and you can defeat me. And that's what happened. It didn't stop there. He went to Kripacharya, another Brahmana, fighting on the side of the Kauravas. And same thing, fell at his feet, asking for blessings. Kripacharya gave his blessings. Similar, not exact same language, but similar blessings. And gave another additional message. He said, don't worry, Drona is already defeated. His spirit was chivalrous, but he's already defeated because he's offensive and many other things. But so don't worry about Drona. It'll be taken care of by providence. And he has an uncle. The uncle's name I can't remember. It starts with an S. What's his uncle's name? Shalya. Very good. Shalya. And Shalya similarly says, you'll be victorious. So then he goes back and gets his weapons and the battle begins. Before there's even battle, the battle is won. By culture and by humility and by seeking blessings. It's nice. I like it. Very nice. Very instructional for those of us that live, because there's always contention and conflicts and stuff, opposition. So, now back to Srimad Bhagavatam. The scene, as there was the scene of the speaking of Bhagavad Gita, there's a scene for the speaking of the Bhagavatam, because it's part of the characteristic of Itihasa and Purana. There's one who's hearing, the one who's speaking. It's standard. And the one who's hearing is submitting to the one who's speaking. The one who's speaking is giving that which they've already heard and received from others, from higher authorities, to their audience. They're just transmitting what the message transmission. Like Prabhupada says, it's like being a postal peon. The postal peon language means it's not so significant. Peon, a small guy. Postal. But here's a letter, and the postal peon takes the letter. He, my dear sir, this is the letter from you. It's from Krishna. It's for you. And then you can open up the envelope and see what the letter says. What's the message meant for you? So the Puranas and Itihasas are that kind of literature. There's someone speaking with a message to someone else. So in the case of Srimad Bhagavatam, the scene is right after Shukadeva Goswami has just completed speaking Srimad Bhagavatam to Maharaj Parikshit. And seated in the audience was Ramaharshan Sutta, son named Sutta Goswami. So who's Ramaharshan Sutta? When Vyas divided the Vedas into 4, he entrusted one of his disciples with this disciple, that disciple, another disciple with being in charge of that particular Veda. And when it came to the Itihasas and Puranas, his disciple Ramaharshan Sutta was given that charge. You're in charge. You're to propagate this portion of the Vedas. And he had a son. His son was named Sutta. Sons are often named Sutta, and he just stuck Sutta. And then Sutta Goswami. So Sutta Goswami was in the audience that heard the entire Srimad Bhagavatam, and it just had completed. And over there in Naimisharanya, which is a different place than where Srimad Bhagavatam was spoken to Maharaj Parikshit, there was a group of sages, because the time was the change of yugas. means when Krishna departs the world, there's a little sandhi, a little period of time before the transition to the next yuga, Kali Yuga. So the sages in that Vedic time, they knew what that meant. Krishna's departed, and there's a short window, and then Kali Yuga is going to begin. So they had an idea. They had a nice idea. They wanted to perform a yajna that lasted for 1,000 years, which means as soon as one yajna is finished, another yajna is beginning. As soon as that yajna is finishing, another yajna is beginning, and continuing on for 1,000 years. Beyond their lifetime. But that was the purpose, was to diminish the negative effects of the age of Kali, because they knew Kali means dark. Manda sumanda matayo manda bhagya hupadrita. Very bad. Manda. Bad. And more bad and even more bad. So the yajna for 1,000 years. And as they were beginning their yajna, something very interesting happened. That's something very interesting that happened was Suta, who was much younger than all of them, he junior to all of them by age, happened to come to their yajna. And immediately they stopped their yajna and offered a seat to Suta to narrate all that he had heard from Shukadeva Goswami speaking to Maharaj Parikshit. They wanted telling of Srimad Bhagavatam Part 2. What you've heard, please tell us. And so that's the scene. And then the content of that scene was they had 6 questions. And the first of those 6 questions is a very good question. The other 5 are also good, but the first one is really good. Please summarize the essence of all the Vedas. And the purpose of all the Vedas, what's the goal of all the Vedas and how to achieve that goal? That's a good question, isn't it? Again, summarize the essence of the Vedas, what's the purpose of that essence of the Vedas and how to achieve that purpose. That's in Canto 1, Chapter 1. So Chapter 1, Chapter 2 is the beginning of the answer or response from Suta to that question. It's a good question, and it's a good answer to that good question. So our topic this evening is there's a series of verses that's summarizing the essence of the Vedas, and specifically the essence of bhakti, or Bhagavat Dharma. I'm going to read the verse. So many of you already know how to do this. On your phone, everyone has a phone or 2 or 3. On your phone, there's you look on vedabase.com, and Canto 1, Chapter 2, verse number 6, 126. And if you just want to hear, that's fine too. I'm just going to read the verse and the translation and the purport. It's very short and very sweet. And this is, the essence of the Vedas. Let's begin. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So this is not the very first response, but it's a nice response. Savai punksam paro dharmo yato bhaktir adhoksaje ahaitukiya pratihata yayatma suprasidati I'll read it one more time because it's a well-known verse, and you hear it many, many times, and you'll know it by heart by hearing it many times. Savai pungsam paro dharmo yato bhaktir adhoksaje ahaitaki pratihata yayatma suprasidati. The supreme occupation or dharma for all humanity is that by which men can attain to loving devotional service unto the transcendent Lord. Such devotional service must be unmotivated and uninterrupted to completely satisfy the self. So there's the process, and there's a qualifier of that process. And I'll just highlight a couple of words in the verse. The first line is the phrase para dharma. So most persons, at least in Vedic culture, are familiar with these four: dharma, artha, kama, moksha. Purushartha it's called. Dharma is rendered commonly for the purpose of artha. Artha means prosperity. More explicitly, money or economic development. But in this life or the next life, achieve prosperity in this life by rendering dharma, and in your next life go to heaven, swarga, depending on how dharmic you have been in this life. So the fruit from the Veda process of dharma is artha, upgrade from coach to first class, or something like that. And then what the purpose of that artha is kama, to satisfy the senses. I can have more stuff. When I have more stuff, I can have more happiness. When I have more happiness, the goal of life is within my palm, with my grip. I've been successful. And then the final one, after kama, is moksha. Because commonly people find, although there's an expectation for happiness that comes from senses and sense objects, that isn't what happens. Bhagavad Gita says what happens. Yehi samsparsha jab bhoga dukkha yonaya evate. Dukkha means distress. Dukkha. We want sukha, you get a punch in the nose. You don't get sukha. So bhoga means enjoyment. It's like, in our ISKCON vernacular, it's those food items before they're offered to the deity. That's bhoga. And then after it's offered to the deity, it has a different name. It's prasadam. So that which is for sense enjoyment, that's bhoga. And that which is for Krishna's satisfaction, that's prasadam. Two different categories of the same thing. So, ye, he, samsparsha ja bhoga. Samsparsha means senses and sense objects. There's an anticipation. What's that? Senses meet sense objects and woo, woo, woo. Happiness. Bhoga. But next line. Dukkha. Yonaya evate. Yoni means the place of birth, as the womb of a mother is the place of birth for a child. So, dukkha yonaya evate. Eva, certainly. Distress from the effort, one's expectation of bringing my senses in contact with sense objects, with the expectation that I'm going to get enjoyment, bhoga, poop. Dukkha yonaya evate. That expectation and the activity connected with the expectation I'm going to enjoy, that's the birthplace of dukkha. That's Bhagavad Gita. And so back to the Bhagavatam. So what's in the Bhagavad Gita is the undergraduate, and then we'll have the graduate study saying the same thing. Not a different thing. It's just explaining it in a more sophisticated way. So paradharma is different than dharma, as in dharma, artha, kama, moksha. Different. What's paradharma? The satisfaction of the supreme is the objective. And what's that supreme? I like this particular one. The name of the supreme used in this verse is Adhoksaja. What does Adhoksaja mean? Adhoksaja mean he who's beyond the senses. Akshaja, the eyes. Adhoksaja, he's who above. You can't see him, but you're supposed to use your senses to serve someone you can't see. Doesn't make sense. But if we have material desire, then we're not going to see the Supreme. So, but he's there, so even if we can't see him, we should serve him. Hey, she's excited. Check it out. Daughter meets mom. Look at this. All right. All of a sudden you became very happy. Okay. We'll carry on. Yato bhaktir adhoksajay. Bhakti, here's another detail of Sanskrit. I'm not a Sanskrit scholar, but I've been a devotee for a number of years, so I've heard a lot of explanations of Sanskrit. Here's one. The word bhakti has its root, or dhatu. And the dhatu for bhakti is bhaj, B-H-A-J. Different than the English word budge, but bhaj. Bhaj means service. Bhaj means service. So, a relationship with the Supreme is with service, or service with love. Love, but service, expressing that love. So you cook in the kitchen with the purpose, besides your family is going to be fed, you're cooking in the kitchen because this is going to be offered to Krishna. And I want to make it really nice, with nicest ingredients, and prepared very carefully in clean conditions, so Krishna offering can be nice. So Krishna is pleased. That's bhakti. The senses and sense objects and activity and service, so Krishna will be pleased. That's bhakti. So you're told bhakti adhoksajay, and that's paradharma. That's the first half of the verse. The second half, ahaituki apratiyata. Hetu means cause. You put the prefix a in front of hetu, and it's ahaituki, without material cause. You know, people do things because you do something to get something, commonly. You know, we came here to this house on, Friday evening because we had a purpose, and so there's an objective. Or you do your homework for school because you want to get a good grade, because, so forth and so on. You want to do well in school because you want to be successful in school. Nothing wrong with that. Please be successful in school. At the same time, who is the one who's being pleased? If it's me, or me and my family members because they're really proud of me because I do well in school, that's I and mine. But bhakti is Krishna should be pleased. It's a whole other level of, besides going to school and doing your academic work, it's how you live your life. Krishna should be pleased. In the kitchen, with music, with, your social interactions with others, everything, your career, you name it. Krishna should be pleased as a way of living. And that person who we're trying to please, we may not see him as Idhoksaja. Our eyes may not be able to see him, but we should know he's situated in the heart of every living entity. And he's existing in the spiritual, not only in the heart, but he's within every atom. Here's a nice understanding. The word Vishnu means he who exists everywhere. Question: is there some place where Vishnu doesn't exist? Answer: no such thing. Within every atom, and between every atom. Within every universe and in between every universe, there's not some place where he doesn't exist. He's everywhere. That's Vishnu, all pervasive. So if one is in the consciousness, Krishna consciousness, I want to please the all-pervasive Supreme. There's no material cause needed. There's no material obstacle that can stop it. Ahituki apratiyata. And when one has that consciousness, then comes the last line. Atma suprasidati. To such a person, on the soul platform, the Atma platform, not the mind platform or the sense platform, on the heart platform or the soul platform, Atma suprasidati, one experiences complete satisfaction. Not only prasana, but suprasana. Su means very. Suprasana. Now that's a response to the question that was asked in chapter 1. What's the essence of the Vedas? What's the goal of that essence and how to achieve it? So it's responding. Now I'm going to read the purport, and after I read the purport, we're going to see if you would all like to discuss any point that is here. In this statement, Sri Sutta Goswami answers the first question of the sages of Naimisharanya. The sages asked him to summarize the whole range of the revealed scriptures and to present the most essential part so that fallen people or people in general might easily take it up. The Vedas prescribe two different types of occupation for the human being. One is Pravriti Marg, the path of sense enjoyment, and the other is Nivriti Marg, the path of renunciation. The path of enjoyment is inferior, and the path of sacrifice for the supreme cause is superior. The material existence of the living being is a diseased condition of life. Actual life is spiritual existence, or Brahma Bhuta existence. Brahma Bhuta means self-realization, right in Bhagavad Gita. Brahma Bhuta prasanatma nasoshati nakangsati, etc. Where life is eternal, blissful, and full of knowledge. Material existence is temporary, illusory, and full of miseries. There is no happiness at all. There is just a futile attempt to get rid of the miseries, and temporary cessation of misery is falsely called happiness. Therefore, the path of progressive material enjoyment, which is temporary, miserable, and illusory, is inferior, but devotional service to the Supreme Lord, which leads one to eternal, blissful, all-cognizant life, is called the superior quality of occupation. This is sometimes polluted when mixed with the inferior quality. For example, adoption of devotional service for material gain is certainly an obstruction to the progressive path of renunciation. Renunciation, or abnegation for the ultimate good, is certainly a better occupation than enjoyment in the diseased condition of life. Such enjoyment only aggravates the symptoms of disease and increases its duration. Therefore, devotional service to the Lord must be pure in quality, namely, without the least desire for material enjoyment. One should, therefore, accept the superior quality of occupation in the form of devotional service of the Lord without any tinge of unnecessary desire, fruitive action, and philosophical speculation. This alone can lead one to perpetual solace in his service. And there's one more paragraph, and I'm done. We have purposely denoted dharma as occupation because, in other words, conventional meaning of dharma is religion. And Prabhupada is announcing, purposely, I've not translated the word dharma as religion, but I've translated it as occupation. Why? Because the root meaning of the word dharma is, quote, that which sustains one's existence. A living being's sustenance of existence is to coordinate his activities with his eternal relation with the Supreme Lord Krishna. Krishna is the central pivot of living beings, and he is the all-attractive living entity, or eternal form amongst all other living beings or eternal forms. Each and every living being has his eternal form in the spiritual existence, and Krishna is the eternal attraction for all of them. Krishna is the complete whole, and everything else is his part and parcel. The relation is one of the servant and the served. It is transcendental and completely distinct from our experience in material existence. This relation of servant and the served is the most congenial form of intimacy. This is a nice sentence. This relation of servant and the served is the most congenial form of intimacy. One can realize it as devotional service progresses. Everyone should engage himself in that transcendental loving service of the Lord, even in the present conditional state of material existence. That will gradually give one the clue to actual life and please him to complete satisfaction. End of purport. This, in addition to Srimad Bhagavatam, I described it as being a graduate study of the undergraduate study. You understand that one now, right? Yeah, okay. And another explanation is much more space over there. You'll be more comfortable for sure. Okay. In trying to understand reality with a capital R, like, what is it? What's really real? What's substantial and not ephemeral? Now you see it, now you don't. What is it? What is it that's eternal and where everything comes from, and what is it? So it's a nice question, and to understand that question, bhakti is said to be, there are different yoga systems that lead one in that direction, higher, higher, higher. But as is found in Bhagavad Gita, the highest of all those yoga systems is bhakti, and bhakti is this rendering of loving service to the Supreme. So this, what does Krishna say? This is another explanation of undergraduate, graduate. What does Krishna say the purpose of the Vedas is? Answer. The purpose of the Vedas is to know Krishna. Here's the verse in Sanskrit. Vedaischa sayar vayar aham eva vedyo. The purpose of the Vedas, aham, first person singular, is to know me. Vedya. Aham eva, certainly. Know me. The purpose of the Vedas is to know Krishna. And the means to know Krishna is through the Vedas, and therefore there's evidences how you can know that which is beyond the eyes to see or beyond the senses to perceive. And that method is the Vedas. Because the Vedas is sound vibration that comes from a perfect source. There's lots of sound vibrations that don't come from a perfect source. Phew. The material world is filled with sound vibrations that are other than the absolute truth, from sources that are not perfect. Supposing you're like, enough of that, please. I'd like the real thing. At least I'd like to have the opportunity in the course of my day and then extended over a period of time, my life, to connect with that which is perfect. So the Bhagavatam is said to be such a source. Amala pramana. Amala means without mala, without contamination, without spots. Amala, without disease. Amala pramana. Pramana means evidence. There are different ways of, I'm going to go over there a little bit and just end. According to the Vedic texts, there are different ways of knowing things. Now I'm looking at you four youngsters in the front row here. This is for you guys. And you also, you can pay attention. According to the Vedas, there are three primary ways of knowing things. One, sense perception. Seeing is believing. Show me. Then I'll believe it. But the senses are imperfect. So we can't see, our senses perceive not correctly. Sometimes, most of the time, all the time. It's imperfect senses. And we make mistakes. And we're subject to illusion. So put all that together, and even things you see, you're not necessarily seeing the way that it really is. So that's one way, is sense perception. Second, by logic or inference. Pratyaksha in Sanskrit, direct for sense perception. Anuman, just like I'm hearing a sound. It's coming from over there. And maybe it's like a heater because it's a little cold out. I don't know, but I'm inferring because there's a sound and it's over there and it's cold out, it's probably a heater and a blower blowing some warm air in the room because, it's cold outside. But that's inference. I don't know. Perhaps maybe. And there's lots of perhaps maybes in modern life. We don't really know. That's inference and logic, or anuman. And then the third means of knowing things is by shabda, by sound. For example, this is a real easy one. On a Tuesday, I'm going to take an airplane ride. At least I'm scheduled to take an airplane ride. If all goes well, I'll be on an airplane with Southwest Airlines going to Phoenix, Arizona. It's warmer in Phoenix than here. Probably. So now, if I want to find out is the flight on time, I don't go to a gas station attendant and ask him, is the Southwest Airlines flight on time today? I go to, they have a website, and they can tell me, is it on time today? And if it's not on time or even canceled, they'll tell me. But the gas station, so I have to hear from the right source. If I'm going to hear about math, I better hear from a good math teacher. I'm not going to hear from an art teacher about math or the phys ed teacher about math. I'm going to hear from a math teacher about math. I have to hear from the right source. And best is, really good teacher. That's best. And then gradually learn more about math from other math teachers, from the right source. But that's also imperfect. Because, the Southwest Airlines might be delayed by half an hour and they didn't know it. They did. So anyway, is there such a thing? The answer to this question is yes. Is there such a thing as a source that's not fallible, or an infallible source? Yes. What's that? The Supreme Being. And He is the source of infallible sound vibration. And that's pramana, shabda pramana, evidence that's through sound, but apurusheya shabda pramana. Sound that's not from a fallible human who makes mistakes and cheats and has imperfect senses and tries to reason things out and doesn't always get it right. Infallible source. Apurusheya Shabda Praman. Srimad Bhagavatam is such a source. If we want to know about Krishna, because Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, the purpose of the Vedas is to know Him. If you want to know Him, you can't go ask the gas station attendant. Or you can't ask the Southwest Airlines travel agent. Or, their office. Their helpline. You have to go to a different source. And that's, if you want to know that from which everything comes, you have to go to that source that can give that information correctly. And that's Srimad Bhagavatam. Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. They say the same thing, although one is by Krishna, the other is about Krishna, but it's the same thing. So I encourage all of you, at whatever stage of devotional service you're in, that if you don't already have Srimad Bhagavatam in your home, consider getting Srimad Bhagavatam in your home. And, with you and your family, because I see there's a number of children here, involve yourselves with your children, yourselves, or, your children with other children, in becoming familiar with what's in Srimad Bhagavatam. And the result will be very different than if not. Here's option A and option B. Supposing I grow up a young boy in America, and I'm encouraged to be successful. And one of the ways to be successful for a young boy growing up in America is do well in your academics. I was sharing this with these college students today. When I was growing up, there was three things, a young boy in America today: academics, sports, and social. That's success. You do those three things, check those three boxes, you're success. And if there's no understanding of where everything is coming from and how to live my life in connection with where everything is coming from, that's one result. That's option A. Option B, I'm a smart young man growing up in America today, and along with learning my academics, do well in math class and, become a PhD in mathematics. What about my connection with the Supreme? If, in addition, on a regular basis, I'm hearing Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita in association of wholesome people, not just scholarly people, but wholesome, devotional people. What's my life going to be like as a young adult? Different. It's like theism and atheism. Different. There's lots of successful people, materially successful people, that are not theistic. They don't have a clue about what's the goal of life and how to achieve it. They don't have a clue. They don't have a clue. And they're professors. They're teaching kids or younger generation people truth. Prabhupada liked telling this story. One time, he got an invitation from Professor Kotovsky of Moscow University, which is like Harvard University for Moscow, for India, or for Russia, to visit him. Because his field was Indology. So he somehow sent a letter to Prabhupada, so he got a visa. He went to Moscow. And they spent some time together. And one of the things in their discussion, two things. One of the things in their discussion was Professor Kotovsky. This is Prabhupada to the professor. We all have to have a leader. In your case, Lenin is your leader. Marx and Lenin, they're the persons who you look up to and you follow. And for me, I look up to, he's an Indologist. I look up to and follow Krishna. So what's the difference between you and me? We're doing the same thing. We've selected a leader, and we're following that leader. And Professor Kotovsky couldn't say anything. I mean, there's differences of what the ideology of Lenin and Marx is compared to Krishna says. There's a difference, but the principle is the same. Then is another part of the conversation. They're just sitting in the professor's office in Moscow University, and Prabhupada was making the point about if one misses this opportunity of the human form of life, then it's the consequences are very serious. One needs to take the opportunity of the human form of life seriously because you don't know where you're going next after this life. Professor Kotovsky said, Swamiji, after the body is finished, everything is finished. And he's a professor. He doesn't know ABC. He doesn't know Bhagavad Gita. He doesn't know his elbow from his shoulder or his foot from his head. He doesn't know the difference. He's a professor teaching in a very esteemed university. What to speak of people in general. So, na te vidu svartakatim hi Vishnu darashaya ye bahir artamaninas. In the language of the Bhagavatam, it's very unfortunate because people don't know what the goal of life is. So, those of you that have children, many of you have children, please make it a point to have Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam as something that you do in relation to your family members. So that they'll become wholesome instead of just smart and successful in the material standard of what success is. And ye not ma supersedati, done in this way, there's a contentment, a happiness, and the Atma level. And if the Atma is satisfied, the senses and mind are more likely to be satisfied than if not. Okay. He was good for a while. Now he's really excited. We'll see you later. Maybe in a few years. Any comments or questions or some topics you'd like to discuss? Yeah, look here, right in the front row. Do we have a microphone? Pass it up.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
I go.
So I heard you talking about Kama and Krodha in like one of the shlokas. So like what is Kama and Krodha and what's the relationship between them?
Okay. The Kama and Krodha, that's you're asking? Krodha means anger, and Kama means lust. So you can say Kama has a younger brother. That's Krodha. First comes the older brother. I want to enjoy Kama. And it's not happening. I'm frustrated. Krodha. The younger brother. He rises from the same place. The same place. We heard this yesterday. Yesterday. It comes from avidya. Ignorance. Here we go. From ignorance comes ignorant desire. One of those ignorant desires is Kama. And when kama, or desire, ignorant desire, is frustrated, I feel angry. So the source, the mama, and she has a couple of sons. But the mama is ignorance. She's the source. And then comes anger, kama. I want to enjoy, ignorant desire, frustrated. So that's the relationship between them. They arise from the same mother. Ignorance. Is it clear?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
I have another question.
The second question, look at this.
So I also heard you saying about like the senses.
Yeah, the senses.
Yeah. Are there any people that like control the senses to like not have desires?
Yeah. But almost not having material desire, yes. But not having desire is not possible. Why is it not possible? Here's why it's not possible.
Because like most people
Because there's a soul within.
Yeah.
And the soul is animate. A stone doesn't have a soul within. But living entities, you and me and everyone else, there's a soul within. And the soul has activity and desire. And so you can purify, make spiritual, not material desire, yes. There's no such thing as the absolute get a dagger out and stab desire to death. But you can't cut the soul. You can't annihilate the soul. It's eternal. Nice try, but no. Okay. Yes, over here. Okay, go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Maharaj. I have a question. Sometimes when I'm doing chanting for Krishna, I feel like I'm doing something wrong, but I don't have time to think about it. I have to do studies and play with my friends and stuff. All I want is just to bond with Krishna and be a devotee of Krishna. I just feel like I'm doing something wrong. Like I can't focus about Krishna when I'm chanting.
Problema. That's Spanish for problem. Well, here's two things. Practice. You know, abhyasa. Abhyasa yoga yuktena cetasa nanyagamino. Practice, practice, and practice, and practice. You ride a bicycle?
Yes.
Yeah. When you first started riding a bicycle, was it comfortable?
No.
Very awkward. But practice and practice, now you don't have to think about it. It just comes because of practice. It just comes that's a motor skill, but then spiritual skills are the same. By practice and practice. Becomes second nature. You have to be careful when you're riding a bicycle. You have to be careful when you're gauging your senses. But it's by practice it becomes, it's possible. So now the practice of being mindful of Krishna while you're doing stuff comes from practice. Same. So here's because it's true, then there's a way to practice. Here's one of the ways. In the right hand is this scripture, and every day, little by little, not like massive, but little by little, little by little, little by little, little by little, then it goes inside, and then you're carrying it inside. And here's what's on the other hand. You have one of these?
Yes.
Yeah.
I have the chanting, but not the bag.
Okay, but it may not be a different color or something, but you have beads.
Yes.
So the holy name and the scripture, the name and Hari Katha or Bhagavat Katha or the sound Katha, sound vibration that's from the Supreme and of the Supreme, and his name. Those two, but you practice at those two things, and I've been at it for a few years now, a few years longer than you've been born, and what happens is it goes inside. And then when it's inside, guess what? It comes out. What's inside comes out. Really simple. So just keep little by little by little by little. Don't have to become fanatic, but little by little, along with all the other stuff that you do. And then it's inside.
It's like I do like the chanting and stuff, but like my mind keeps thinking, come on, how longer it's gonna go.
You're welcome to the club. But you so here's the recommendation. A little bit. Not too much. Not too little. Something you can do every day and stay with it. Be present.
Okay.
And then you want to do other stuff, but you do that every day, at your age, and just keep doing it every day. And supposing the mind wanders, and supposing this and that and the other thing, because it's because it's nourishing. We're in a diseased condition. We're taking some medicine, and it's not like you take medicine and immediately the disease is gone. It may take some time, but you have good medicine and a good physician recommending the medicine. You take the medicine, the disease diminishes over time. It works.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, I have a question regarding self-control.
Self-control.
Yes.
Okay.
Sometimes when I think, or I suppose I'm doing something correctly, and my parents tell me the correct way to do what I'm doing, mostly I try to justify myself and tell them that this is the correct way.
Yeah, of course
But
you
it
tell them
isn't.
that.
So, Maharaj, regarding this question, how can I control myself when I am in this situation?
I'll give an answer and then give you a scripture that supports the answer. Do you know what Shikshastika is?
Yes, Maharaj.
Okay. And the last two words in Shikshastika, Amanina Manadena Kirtaniya Sadahari. So, Amanina means with humility. And Manadena, I'm not looking for praise from someone. I want to be respectful to everyone in a mood of humility and not expect anything in return. Easier said than done, but that's the principle. Amanina Manadena. Kirtaniya Sadahari. So, those who are elders, your example is your parents, right?
Yes, Maharaj.
Okay, I'm very, very careful because I don't know who your parents are. So, elders are to be respected. We had this discussion last couple times, and we're going to hear it some more over the weekend. It's just Vedic. It's just Vedic culture, respect elders. But, supposing I got my hands on my hips and saying, look, I'm doing the right thing. And how do I know I'm doing the right thing? Well, just ask me, I'll tell you. Or there's such and such authority, and I'm doing the right thing because such and such authority. And then they've got their hands on their hips too, saying, "Look, I'm your mom and dad. I'm telling you, you're not doing it right." So, what do you do? That's your question.
Yes, Maharaj.
Well, don't fake it. Don't pretend. But try your best to be respectful and try to understand. Please help me understand why the way that I'm doing it is not right and the way that you're recommending is right. It'll help. Intelligence can guide my mind and senses. So please help my intelligence understand why that's right and this is wrong. But you're my superior, mom and dad, so I'm going to be very respectful. I'm not just going to throw it away. But mutually, please try to understand why I'm thinking this is the way, not that. So it's not negotiating, so you end up in somewhere in the middle. Just you want to get what's right. And respectfully, if that mood is there, without wavering from being respectful, then you have good, wholesome, healthy communication between yourself and superiors, mom and dad or anybody else. The end result is Krishna should be pleased. That's what our target is. So Krishna will be pleased even if your idea you have a good idea, they have another idea that's maybe not your idea but also a good idea. Then Krishna should be pleased. And the bottom line is Krishna should be pleased, and that's my intention. Krishna should be pleased. So if I do it the way they want instead of the way that I want, or the way that I think is the right way, it's okay, provided Krishna is pleased.
Okay.
And then you can smile. This young man wants to say something again.
I have a good one for me, but like sometimes I know like a mantram, and sometimes I make like a mistake and I'm trying again, but I can't like fix the like mantram and like in the word when I say it wrong, and then does it give me karma or something like that?
What was the punchline of the question? Say it slower.
Hmm?
Say the punchline of the question slower.
Does it give me karma? Karma?
No.
Oh.
No. Krishna knows. Supposing there are people all over the world that have different dialects and different languages, and people in Hispanic people say Krishna's name in a kind of comical way. It's not really Krishna. They don't say Krishna's name. They say it with like the L. The R becomes an L. Krishna. And they'll say it consistently 100 times. But Krishna knows they're calling him. No, it's not karma. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
It's the same principle. Krishna should be pleased. Okay. In the back, anyone?
Hare Krishna Maharaj. So anger is like a common like obstacle in bhakti, but
Yes,
anger
it
is
is.
like hard to control. So how do we control our anger?
That's a nice question. Well, try to understand. I'd like to give you a philosophical answer, because what's inside comes outside. The anger is coming outside. Where's it coming from? Ask the question, where's it coming from? So, I want to enjoy. That's the starting point. And then there's something that's an obstacle for my enjoyment. Please get out of the way. You're obstructing my enjoyment. And they don't get out of the way. So you say it a little stronger or a little heavier or whatever, and they don't get out of your way. So now you may become angry. Where's it coming from? The expectation of I want to enjoy, but there's a qualifier, independently of Krishna. So that the remedy for anger is align what your purpose of life is with Krishna's purpose of life. And what happens is the anger factor diminishes. Now, let me ask you or suggest something. One of the ways to address anger is directed in a way that Krishna is pleased. Here's 2 examples. This is, scriptural. Hanuman became angry because Ravana was doing bad stuff. Not only bad stuff, he kidnapped Sita. He was keeping her and tormenting her and having Rakshasas threaten her to, etc., etc. So he's a bad guy. And Hanuman tried to reason with him. He gave the message to Sita that was the message of Ram. He's going to come soon and redeem you. Now he's leaving the Ashok garden, but he wants to do something. He wants to teach Ravana a lesson. So he starts a commotion. You know the story. And Ravana hears the commotion and he sends guards and they try to capture him. So Hanuman allows himself to be captured just so he can have a face-to-face audience with Ravana, 10-headed Ravana. And Hanuman's not intimidated by 10-headed Ravana. He tells him like it is. Like shaking his finger. And Ravana is angry like anything. Who are you, monkey, telling me? So he wanted to kill him. You know what happened. So when he tried to kill him, Bibhishan said, it's against the codes of Dharma to kill a messenger. So you can punish him, but you can't kill him. Oh, okay. Then monkeys like their tails, set his tail on fire. You know the story. So Hanuman, in an angry mood, burned the whole of Lanka with his tail on fire. To do what he did took anger, and the anger was directed towards one who is opposed to Ramachandra, my master, my Lord, my soul and my existence purpose, Ramachandra. So someone who's offensive to Ramachandra, then if you're Hanuman, you become angry. Or Arjuna became angry to fight because that's what Krishna wanted. So take that tendency that's inside and direct it towards that which is pleasing to the Supreme Lord. And that tendency has a channel. And otherwise checked. Because the check is, I don't go after things that are not for the satisfaction of Krishna or the Supreme. So I just don't go there. But that which is interfering, supposing someone is offending another devotee, they're vilifying another devotee, or hurting, harming, beating up, or something. That's an outlet for anger. Appropriate. So if you live your life where your desire is in alignment with the Supreme, you've controlled anger. And if you don't do that, then you're being moved around by the mind and the modes of nature, the consequence of an unregulated life. There's a lot of that in the world. Wars. Anger. And we're right, because that's what, that's why anger comes. Okay. I'm really happy our younger generation folks are the ones asking the questions. I hope you're all as happy as I am about that. So his young fellow, he wants to come bring you the microphone. Just raise your hand. Okay. That's it. That's it. So, those of you that are interested, there's an ongoing series that we'll be resuming starting tomorrow, and then so forth for the rest of the weekend. And it's on the topic of respect. Then it's based upon Srimad Bhagavatam, the teachings of Lord Kapila. And if you're interested, come attend the classes. If not, you can hear it YouTube. If not, may all of us be good association for all of you when you come to the temple on Sunday. So you'll have a nice experience because of nice conduct, respectful conduct. Srila Prabhupada ki. Okay. Now, before I came to St. Louis, I was in Naperville, the suburb of Chicago, and the devotees there very kindly provided me with some Mahaprasadam. It's burfi,